As we get ready for the start of the America East playoffs, one more regular season game, and it's time for Herrion holds court with head coach Bill Herrion. Coach, the timing couldn't be much better as the America East just announced on February 17th the change to the tournament format that we'll get to. But first and foremost, welcome back as the fans are lining up here. It's been a while, it seems, since we've done one of these.
Yeah, it sure has, Murph. I apologize to everybody first that we have not done one sooner. It just seems like this whole season has been, just one thing after another. And what I'd like to say first and foremost is I hope that everybody out there is again staying safe, and hope you're healthy and hope you've been getting through this. I'd like to say this before we do start. I just got an email late this afternoon. I was unaware of this, that Jack Burns, I believe, had come down with the COVID, and then has, I think, now had a bout with pneumonia, and has really, really been, I think, struggling for the last couple of weeks. I was not aware of that at all. I just found that out today. So, Jack, if you're listening, or if you're not, our thoughts and prayers go out to you. He does so much for our program, and I hope you're doing well. We're thinking about you. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. And again, I hope everybody out there is doing well. I know this has been unbelievably difficult for many, many of us. And again, I hope you're doing well. It's good to see everybody. It really is.
I do want to echo your sentiments, Coach, and I think everyone agrees. We wish a speedy recovery for Jack Burns, but it is yet another reminder, right, of this pandemic. Everything else seems so trivial when you remember the health hazards that come with this deadly virus.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be lying to everybody. Never in my wildest dreams, when we were going through this, when we had these Zooms, I want to say maybe late spring last year, then into the summer. And then maybe we had one, I want to say maybe at the very beginning of school in September. Well, I'll tell you, when I was doing my 5-mile walks during the summer, I assumed by this time this year that we'd have fans back in the stands. We'd have students at the games. We'd be seeing each other in person. And I just never thought that this would last as long as it has. And you're right, Murph. This has been unprecedented times. And I just hope everybody's doing well. I really do. This has obviously been extremely difficult.
So into the basketball side of things, it was announced on the 17th, the day before we record this, the America East said the regular season ends this week. So UNH has one more game. That's at UMass Lowell on Saturday. Then the playoffs will look like this. All eligible teams will qualify. The top 2 seeds get automatic buys into the semifinals, and the remaining teams compete in the playoffs. The number 3 and 4 seeds will host games starting either Friday, February 26th, or Saturday, February 27th. Then the 3, 6, and 7 seeds will be at one pod. The 4, 5, and 8 and 9 will be in the other. And then the field will be reseeded prior to the semifinals, which those first 2 seeds will host on Saturday, March 6th, the championship game, Saturday, March 13th, at the highest remaining seed live on ESPN2 at 11 a.m. So it's been stretched out, Coach, over a 3-week period now. So what is your reaction to that news?
Well, everybody, this has been changing day to day. And here's what I'll say to you. Number one is that here's the good part about it. As we sit here tonight, our team is in 3rd place in the America East. And we have the tiebreaker right now with Hartford. Now, I gave 2 talks to our team in the last 2 days. Yesterday before practice, I came back into the gym and I said, okay, now here's the new revamped schedule. We got to go to UMass Lowell this Saturday. We've got to go play a single game at Vermont next Wednesday. And then we have to go to NJIT down in Newark, New Jersey next weekend. We had 4 games, we thought, remaining. Very tough finishing schedule, which would have been 4 consecutive games on the road. And I said to our guys, hey, fellas, this is what it is. And let me say this to everybody that, we've got to give the university, the administration, President Dean, Marty Scarano, our athletic administration has done a phenomenal job of navigating us all through this. I mean, we're really the one team in this league that if we played the last 4 games, we would have played a full 18-game conference schedule. How about that? Now, with that said, our whole team went down with the COVID about a week or two before Christmas. It hit us all at once. We can get into that in a little bit. Then late yesterday afternoon, the America East had a meeting, and the athletic directors, and they made the switch to this new conference format. So today I came in the gym. I said, guys, change of plans again. Here we are. We have one regular season game left this Saturday at UMass Lowell. So the conference regular season is going to end this week. But here's the good thing, and I want you all as fans and as alums to understand this. We've had a very good year. I am extremely pleased with this basketball team this year. Now what's going to happen is, our goal every year we start to play is, eventually we want to try to win a championship and go to the NCAA tournament in March. Well, this game Saturday at UMass Lowell, this single game, we just played them 2 weeks ago at home twice, and we split. Believe it or not, there's a lot on this game on Saturday. But these are the kind of games that we want our team playing in at this time of the year. If we win, we will lock up the 3 seed, I believe. And we will host a pod at home as the 3 seed. And like Murph said, 2 other teams will come to the pod. I believe if we get beat on Saturday, we will slide down to the 5 seed. I think that's where the math is. What they're going on with the conference this year for seeding, so everybody knows, it's winning percentage in the conference. It's not overall wins. We are 8-6 in the league. And the way we were trying to map this thing out mathematically, like even if we played the last 4 games and just say we went 2-2, let's just say we were 10-6 in the league, we still could have got bumped out of seeding because of, you're almost getting penalized for playing too many games, if you hear what I'm saying. There's a lot of teams that had shutdowns during the season and have played fewer games that could have had a higher winning percentage than us. So you know what? Hey, we're in a good spot. I am really proud of these guys, and I really like our team. And we had 2 great games against UMass Lowell 2 weeks ago, and I'm expecting nothing different on Saturday down there. It's going to be a really, really tough game. I think our kids are ready. We've practiced well. So we're going to go give it a shot.
And Coach, you're right on with the standings, because if you look at it now, UNH is 8-6. Hartford is 8-6. This game against UMass Lowell will determine whether or not the Wildcats are home as a team hosting a pod or going on the road, because Hartford doesn't play anymore. It's just by coincidence. They're stuck at 8-6. So whether that's a good or bad thing, that's a very important thing to note. All right, here's a question from Norm Jones. He wants to make sure you know, Coach, this weekend the UNH alumni have set up a Cheer on the Wildcats event. He asked to send a message to the men's hoop players. So, Coach, is there a message or theme that I should echo to reinforce your message as the head coach?
To the team?
Yes.
Yeah, hey, Norm, I appreciate that. And it's great seeing you. And I hope you're doing well. Hope you're healthy. Hope you're safe. I appreciate if you could all get behind us this weekend. I don't know if you've been following us on TV or on the internet. We have a good team. We're good. And we've done this without a few key pieces this year. But what it's done is it's given a lot of our younger players in this program a great opportunity to step up and play and get experience. I think a sign of your program of any success is, are you playing meaningful games at the end of February and into March? And we are playing a very meaningful game this Saturday, which is the last regular season game of the year. So the way we approach it is, we control our destiny, Norm. It's in our hands. But I think this is the next step with this group as far as just trying to prove, we belong in the upper part of this league. So I think we're excited. Lowell's very good. They're a really good basketball team, and it's going to be a tough game. It's on the road, but we've won on the road this year. We're 4-3 on the road. We know how to win on the road, and we've had good practices the last few days. I feel confident going into this game, to be honest with you.
And the home court advantage thing is different because of the lack of fans. You talked about this during the course of the season. So it's been about a 500 team on the road, 500 at home. I think the big difference is that extra game you'd have to play if you end up going on the road versus because chances are they're going to keep regional travel. So you don't have to go too far. But the idea that somebody else would have to play a game and then play you the next day is pretty significant, I think, the way the format is set up.
Yeah, here's what I'm going to say to everybody. I think one of the most challenging things this season, there's really been no home court advantage other than seeing some of your cutouts behind the bench in the stands, but not seeing you live. I'm a college basketball, fanatic. I watch a lot of games, and I am even having trouble when I turn on a high level game on TV, a Big Ten game, an ACC game, an SEC game, whatever, Big East. I can't even stick with it because there's just no atmosphere. There's no energy, even on the TV. Look at the scores across the country this year. There are high major programs that are losing at home that never, ever, ever lose at home. Duke never gets beaten Cameron Indoor Stadium. Michigan State never loses at home by 30. I think at the high levels where they're playing in front of 12 and 13, 14, 15,000 people every night, they have that built-in energy, that built-in, motivator. But even with us at Lundholm, when we get people in there, there is an electricity, there is an atmosphere. And these back-to-back games have been very, very challenging. I'm not going to lie to you. It's, it's great when you win the first night because now you want to sweep the second day. It's really hard if you lose the first night, which we have this year, because now that next day feels like it's a must-win situation, and it puts a lot of pressure on the guys. And we've done a good job. We've been swept once this year. We lost 2 home games to UMBC, who's playing Vermont tonight. They're both in first place. They're a very good basketball team. We've swept a couple of teams this year. And you know what? I'm not going to lie to you. Late in the season, you probably don't want to hear this. The splits haven't been bad. They've been positive, believe it or not.
Frequently, this happened around the country. And I don't know if anyone is ever going to be able to determine this is why. But in these 2-game back-to-back series that you reference, so many times the Saturday game is the polar opposite of what happens on Sunday. And is there any rhyme or reason?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I would love for somebody to do a study on that. Now you kind of, in a way, understand what the Ivy League's been going through for 50, 60, 70 years. Or I guess, Mike, what college hockey goes through, right? They play, I think, back-to-back nights. It's amazing where the first game of a back-to-back, you can play really well and win. Like we beat Albany at home about 3-4 weeks ago and played terrific on a Saturday. And then you turned around on Sunday, the next day, less than 24 hours later, and they came out and beat us bad. I don't know. I think a lot of people, well, geez, did the kids play hard? I've never questioned the effort with our guys. Possibly, maybe the first game that we played on the road out at Binghamton, we really got beat badly in the second half, but then we had a great overtime win the second day. This has been hard. I don't have an answer, Murph. I really don't. Very hard to figure out.
For those who joined late, Coach Herrion did say if you use the chat function, if any questions, we'll mix them in. And a little bit later on, we'll open up the microphones for people to jump in as well. But for the sake of keeping it relatively calm, we ask everyone to keep themselves on mute until it is time to talk. So as we get ready for the end of the regular season, how important was the bye week? I seem to recall you thought the team was starting to really get fatigued. You didn't get that open week, and it just happened before we get to this stretch run.
Well, you're all aware that, let's turn back a little bit on the season. On Sunday, December 6th, we played a game down at Quinnipiac in Connecticut. I want to say it was our 3rd or 4th game of the year. And the university's done a phenomenal job with testing with the COVID. The NCAA, when we started playing, it was an NCAA regulation. We had a test 3 times a week. So right after the Quinnipiac game, we had a test in the locker room because it was our day to test. We got back to camp and we went down and back in the same day. We got back to campus later that day, like late afternoon, early evening on Sunday, December 6th. The first two people, Taylor Matos, the big transfer from Bowling Green, and Chris Moore, my assistant, were the first two people to test positive the next day on Monday. Then we had a test as a team. Everybody else was negative. Then we had a test again, I think, on Tuesday after a morning practice. Well, later that day, some of the results came back, and we had about 6 or 7 guys that were abnormal with their tests. Eventually, they came back positive. I tested positive twice, as a couple of other players did. And then by the end of the week, the whole team got it. And when we got it, it was the timing of it. We were in final exams. So we did not really have any games scheduled during exams. So we kind of went under the radar, I think, with it. I don't think a lot of people even knew we got it, but we were all knocked out. And the toughest part of it was the 10-day isolation. The quarantine is tough. It's really hard. So I think what happened, Murph, was when we got out of quarantine, it was about, I want to say it was like December 22nd or 23rd, like right before Christmas. And then we were scheduled to start the league season December 27th and 28th. We played Hartford at home and we beat Hartford twice at home. I think what happened with the conference, then other teams started getting knocked out, but they, not the whole team, just a couple guys positive. So they had to go into pause. They had to go into isolation. They had to shut the program down for a couple weeks. We were the only team, I think, kind of in a way left standing where we could play. It didn't matter. We had already gotten it. We didn't have to test for 90 days. That was the rule. So we played every weekend from Christmas until last weekend. I thought our guys were getting very tired. And I just kind of said to Marty, I said, Marty, I think we need a weekend off. I mean, these guys, no Thanksgiving, no Christmas. I mean, we spent Christmas in Lundholm Gymnasium with a small artificial Christmas tree. I Zoomed with all the parents about a week before Christmas. And I said, listen, FedEx, if you have presents for your sons, FedEx them to my house in Dover. I had a ton of presents in my living room. I brought the presents over on Christmas Day. We had a little artificial Christmas tree, and we spent our Christmas in the gym. These kids did not go home for Christmas. I think these kids deserve, I hope that you really appreciate what these kids have done representing our university, representing our program, of just sticking this out the whole way. They have done a phenomenal job. They really have. I couldn't ask any more from these guys.
A number of questions have come in, Coach, especially as you describe what it was like during the time where COVID hit the team. Then you have the holidays, so different. How is it now as far as housing, how they eat, study? Because the campus last week moved to an orange mode right after students came back. So remote learning seems to be the normal thing now.
Yeah. Most of our players do live in off-campus housing in apartments. Most of you are alums, so you know what I'm talking about. We only have 4 players. Blondo, Nick Johnson, our roommates in Congreve. KJ McClurg and John Willman, our 2 freshmen, are roommates in Congreve. Those are the only 4 players in a dorm on campus. Fortunately, they were able to stay in the dorm. I'll tell you, you want to talk about a long winter break. They shut the unit. Remember, all the students went home at Thanksgiving and everything went to remote learning. Our guys were here for the whole winter break in Durham. And I think you all know what Durham's like during that Christmas break, that semester break. It's pretty lonely, The school did a great job. They kept one of the dining halls, I believe, open, not Holloway, one of the other dining halls on campus. So our players had access to meals. The university did a great job of feeding these guys, and now that we've started up the second semester, I will say this to everybody, and I don't want to speak out of turn. It's not my job, but we are really, really spiking up with cases on campus. to a pretty, I think, pretty serious level. Right now, we're back in second semester. We started on February 1st. We moved to Orange last week, I want to say, Murph. So everything went back to remote learning for all the students. I'll tell you, you ride around campus right now, it almost feels like winter break again. It's very, very quiet. It's very, very kind of down. I'm sure a lot of kids probably went home because of, going to the Orange. We're not allowed. We are allowed now. We have all the fall sports have come back and are practicing. Because they're going to play the fall sports in the spring here. I want to say, as you all know, it's crazy as it sounds. Football, I think, has a game 2 weeks from this Saturday. How about that? They're playing. I think they're playing. Murph, who do they play?
It's Albany, and it's a Friday night game, no less, on March 5th at 7:00.
How about that? And all the other fall sports are practicing right now, getting ready for the spring season. I hope that our numbers start to decline so these student athletes have an opportunity to play in the second semester. So right now, yeah, we're in a tough spot right now at the university. We're at a really kind of, a little bit of a tipping point.
As for real-time answers to what you're saying, Coach, it was a week ago where the university at 6:00 last Thursday moved from yellow to orange, and that's when we went to the remote learning. But today, an update from President Dean. It says things are trending in the right direction. So the cases are going down. We're going to stay in orange. This is from President Dean for at least another week and hopefully get back to yellow. We haven't been in green since about a year ago now. So the interesting thing was, Coach, that they wanted to get student fans into a hockey game last Friday night. And so the university has shown this willingness and desire to give the students something to do, which is huge to say. Lundholm Gym just a little bit too small for that idea, but the Whittemore Center and maybe these outdoor sports, there's a chance of some normalcy as we go down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. I wish they were able to get the students into that hockey game. I've stopped over to a couple of hockey games. I'm very good friends with Mike Souza. We talk a lot. I've stopped over to a couple of games. I can't tell you, and I know you as fans, as a coach, when I sit in that hockey arena and it's empty, it's surreal. It's like the game's not even, it's like a scrimmage. I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. It feels like a scrimmage. There's no energy. There's no electricity. You know how that place, you all know, you've been there when it's packed or when it's a great crowd. I mean, the kids feed off of that. And even in Lundholm, I'm not saying we pack Lundholm every night, but when we have a good sized crowd in there, there's a lot of energy in there. And the kids feed off that. That's the one thing that I've noticed is that there's just, making sure your kids on game day are motivated, ready to play has been a real challenge as a coach. It really has. I mean, we try to motivate them obviously every game we play, but when they run up on that court and they take the court and they go out for layups and warm-ups, there's no band, there's no cheerleaders, the popcorn's not out in the light. There's nothing. You don't even shake hands with the refs before the game, but that's okay with me. I don't need to do that.
Okay. There are some benefits, I guess, of the pandemic.
Yeah.
So a basketball question came up from Andrew. He wants to talk about the impact the two transfers who immediately were able to play. What kind of impact did they had on your team?
Yeah, you know what? It's I think we're very fortunate that the NCAA passed that immediate eligibility transfer rule. I think back in, was it December? I think the first games they played, was it Hartford or was it Maine? I think it was Hartford. So it was back in December. Quan Murphy, transferred from Houston Baptist, about 6'5" guard, who's now in the starting lineup for us. I think if you look at our team right now, it's really interesting. It's like when we probably zoomed back in the summer and we were talking about this coming season, I didn't think we'd have a whole new backcourt. At that point, Sean Sutherland was healthy, coming off a great year last year. Josh Hopkins was healthy, has only played 4 games this year. Marquis Maltzby, who's a junior now, is just having a really, really tough offensive year. He's having a tough year. I think a lot of players go through that in their careers. So Quan Murphy's now in the starting lineup. And the last 8 games, we're 5-3 in our last 8 games. And Quan's averaging about 12.5 and shooting 50% from the floor. Andrew, I want to say maybe in the 40s from 3. He's given us a really, really good eye. He can really score. He's a big guard that can score. We got to get him better on the defensive end. Going to take time, and he's made strides. But he's really helped us offensively. Taylor Matos was an impact right away for us with his size, and he's skilled, and he's got a chance to be a really good player at 6'10", 6'11". In our first Albany game, probably about 3-4 weeks ago, we had put him into the starting lineup at the center spot, and we were playing bigger with Nick Guadarrama kind of as the 4. And I will say this to all of you, if you've been following us, I don't know if you've been really following the jump that Jaden Martinez has made as a player. This kid is going through the roof right now. He really is. The jump that he's made is phenomenal. He's playing terrific. So we went with a bigger lineup with those 3 guys. Then Taylor Matos, about 3 or 4 minutes into the first Albany game, caught an inadvertent elbow and got his 2 front teeth knocked out. Obviously, was out the rest of that game, had immediate surgery on his mouth, did miss the second Albany game where we got beat, and then did not make the trip to Binghamton the following weekend. He's back now. He's been back for a couple of weeks. He's got a custom mouthpiece. We need him down the stretch here. He's a factor. He can score. He's big. And he has 2 years left still. So I think the fact that these transfers have been able to get on the court and play like the second half of the year is only going to help them down the road. And obviously what's happened, guys, is that, we've made some changes with the starting lineup in the backcourt. Blondo is a redshirt freshman. If you remember last year, about 6 games in, he ruptured his patella tendon down at a game at Florida International down in Miami. He's fully healthy now. He's playing terrific, guys. He really is. He's a redshirt freshman. And another kid who's really elevated our basketball team is Nick Johnson, out of the Bronx, New York, out of All Hallows High School down in the Bronx, the New York City Catholic League. Nick tore his ACL in summer school before his freshman year, so never even played a game last year. I'm telling you, he's got a chance to be special. He really does. 6'4", strong, athletic, lefty. We really, really like him. I think those 3, Taylor, Quan, Blondo, and Nick Johnson have given us a tremendous lift.
I know from a fan perspective, Coach, the tug of war between Blondo and Nick in this Battle for America East Rookie of the Week awards has been fun to follow. Well, now that we're getting down the stretch, one of those 2 guys will be the Rookie of the Year. From inside the locker room as a head coach, how have you followed this race?
They're best friends. They're roommates. So there's nothing between the 2 of them. They really like each other. Here's what's happened, guys. And let me just explain, I think the whole landscape of college basketball, but I'm sure you're all aware of it and you follow it. Things that I've been around the game a long time as an assistant and a head coach. And at our level of basketball, say at UNH, it was always, you have good older guys that are in your program. They get better, they improve, they get older, they get, bigger, more physical. And then you bring in a good freshman class. And then now you bring the freshmen along. Then the older guys leave and the freshmen become sophomores and juniors. Well, you know what? That's not happening anymore. We played, I want to say, five consecutive weekends in the league. And with all 5 opponents that we played, not one team that we played in those 5 weeks did a freshman on their team step on the court to play in the game. Not one. My point is that these new transfer rules are really, really affecting college basketball. I'll be honest with you, and I don't know if you're, I know problem sharing this. Sean Sutherland had labrum surgery on his hip back, I want to say, in early January. So Sean has not played a game. We let him go home. He had the surgery done out in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, with a big-time orthopedic hip surgeon that works with the Minnesota Vikings and the Minnesota Timberwolves. So he had a great doctor do his surgery. And Sean's still at home. He's his classes are remote online. Well, Sean put his name into the transfer portal. I don't know if you know that or not. We're supporting him. I think it's the way of the world right now in college basketball. You look at this kid down at Duke last week. If you follow it, they had like a lottery pick, this kid, Jalen Johnson, who just all of a sudden decided not to play the last 2 or 3 weeks of the season. The transfer situation is becoming very serious in college basketball. It's not good. The NCAA, I think, around August or September, they pushed this decision off of changing the transfer rule, that if you transfer from a Division I to another Division I, you're not going to have to sit out a year. You can transfer and be eligible right away. If that rule goes through, that is devastating for our level. Because I think what's happening, I don't want to speak out of line. I think like a lot of these high major schools, I think they know your rosters. I think they look around at it. They know. Jaden Martinez, I'm not afraid to say this to you. Jaden's from San Antonio, Texas. This kid right now, if you've been following us, his numbers are unbelievable. I mean, he's playing great. And if he, I have no question he's going to stay with us. This kid's got a chance to be a superstar the next 2 years. He really does. He's going to be an all-conference player. Nick Guadarrama or Jaden are going to be a first-team all-conference player. Then the other one would probably be second. I don't know who's going to get what. So that's kind of where it's at.
Coach, do you have, sticking with this new rule, which you had forecast, this would be devastating to the America East, but as a head coach, do you have to change the way you look at a player who comes to you and says, I'm going to the portal differently than he would 4 or 5 years ago, because it probably will become more commonplace? And we have a direct example with football. In fact, Evan Horn used to play in the basketball team, a standout player who put his name in the portal. There were no takers, or it wasn't the right fit, and he did come back to the football team. Yeah. Do you have to be more open-minded in these situations going forward?
The problem I think that you have with basketball, Murph, is there's 360 Division I schools. There's not 120. You with me? So there's a lot of options out there for basketball. We had a Zoom. Our staff had a Zoom. We had about a 45-minute Zoom with Sean last week. And I'll be honest with you, we want Sean back. Okay, so everybody understand that we want Sean, and Sean has indicated to us, he's been very upfront with us, Coach, right now, I want to come back to UNH. I just want to see what's out there. I have to, I have to support the kid. I do. And I have to let him go through this process. But here's what I had to explain to Sean so everybody understands. What we're not going to do is we're not going to wait till like May. Like if he's going to be looking at other schools, there's no guarantee he's going to come back to UNH. So what we have to do to protect ourselves and our program is we have to start recruiting other players, if you're with me. And if we find someone that we like, we might have to, if we offer somebody, because here's what's, I think, just yesterday, the NCAA came out again. I don't know how close you follow this. We have been in a dead period from a recruiting standpoint or a contact standpoint, as far as in person, since the pandemic started last March. The NCAA just extended that dead period till May 31st. February, March, April, May, about 3 more months. My point is, think of the number of high school kids across this country that are not getting evaluated and recruited. Or there are a lot of players available out there that if you're patient, I think, you can end up with some pretty good players with your recruiting class.
Andrew had added this question. Does the new transfer rule impact the way you will recruit players coming in?
No, I will say this to everybody. I think we're really, really close. I mean, if we can get Sean to come back, Sean was an impact player. You're talking about a kid that averaged 13.5 points a game and led the league basically in rebounding last year at 6'5". I think with our size, with Taylor Matos, with Nick Guadarrama, with Jaden Martinez, we have as good a front court as anybody. I mean, we really do. And I like our guards, and we got everybody coming back. We don't graduate anybody. Here's what when I made the point about the 5 straight, no one's playing freshmen in our league. Blondo and Nick Johnson are basically the only 2 freshmen, if you look at the stats, that are playing. So you're right, Murph. One of those guys is going to be the rookie of the year. I think what the other schools are doing, and I think this is happening across the country in college basketball, the days of you bringing along young guys, I think nobody wants to do that anymore. Nobody wants to be patient with that anymore. I think it's such a win now. Let's not get young anymore. Let's stay old. I think that's why. Like, you look at a team like Albany, for example. You play Albany or Stony Brook. Stony Brook's a prime example. Remember, they had 3 seniors last year that left. One kid went to Miami down in Florida in the ACC. Another kid went to Georgia in the SEC, and another kid went to Cal out on the West Coast in the Pac-10. And they're all playing. Like, Stony Brook had a brand new starting 5 this year. Not one guy that started was there last year. Albany had 4 brand new starters that weren't even there last year. So that's what you're kind of facing right now, in our league. Remember, you'd always have somebody would have a great freshman, and then, he would come and develop and eventually maybe be the player of the year, like Tanner Leisner, like for us, or Jalen Smith. Those 2 guys are having phenomenal careers if you've been following them at all over in Europe. Tanner Leisner's playing in the Superior League in Turkey, which is like one of the top 5 or 6 rated professional leagues in the world. Okay. The NBA being one. Okay. And Jalen Smith is playing in the top Pro A league in Germany. I mean, these guys are playing at a very, very high level.
Coach, you said the America East teams are staying old, but the Herrion team got young recently. And somebody, Norm, put on there that congratulations. Has it hit you yet? I know that Dad has been putting his video on and off for diaper changes, I presume, but you're now Grandpa, Coach. Congratulations to you and Ryan.
Well, thank you. You know what? It's they keep asking me, well, what do you want to be called? I said either Coach or Billy. That's it. I don't no pop, none of that. Okay, Coach or Billy. Call me by my first name.
Ryan, you have to jump in now. Give us more, and what will your daughter call Pop?
We'll approach it in about 3 weeks when the season's done. Then he can focus on picking a real name out.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations. That's definitely fantastic news, and she chose the bye week, Coach, so she knew.
Oh, unbelievable timing. Yeah.
Thank you, Norm. Thank you.
Yeah, but he hasn't been back to work yet. I don't know what's the deal here. You know what I'm saying?
He's working remote. Orange. It all makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
We have coworkers we haven't seen in over a year either, Coach. Some we're okay with. But the game Saturday against Lowell, I want to point this part out. You don't have to tell the whole story, but people will see you wearing a towel on your shoulder. It's a nationwide thing this week in honor of John Thompson.
Yeah, I didn't even know this, and I thank Murph for this. Murph sent me an email about 3 days ago, earlier this week, that this week their college basketball through the NABC, which is our organization for coaches, the National Association of Basketball Coaches, which I've been a member for, I thought, for like 35 years. But because of the COVID last spring and there was no Final Four, unbeknownst to me, my dues weren't paid. So I'm not a member right now. So they were only what they're doing is they're sending, if you watch college basketball games on TV this week, there's towels. Remember John Thompson at Georgetown always had the towel over his shoulder. Well, they got a picture of John Thompson on the towel. The coaches are wearing it. I had Murph do me a favor with his connections. I have a towel being FedEx to me that I should be getting tomorrow. I owe Murph money. Okay, he had to back me on this. He lent me some money. I was broke at the time, so I owe Murph some money. But you know what? I will say this. Being a college coach, I had a lot of respect for John Thompson. A lot of respect in the opportunities that he gave, African-American youngsters throughout his career at Georgetown. A lot of respect. So I think it's a great honor for us to honor him. I think it's great.
And Coach, for the record, the only thing that bothered me is I grew up a St. John's fan, and as I got a little bit older, I realized that my native state, Connecticut, was in the Big East. I cheered for UConn for a few years, and then I went to Syracuse and became a Syracuse fan. The one thing they all had in common, we all hated Georgetown. So now we're helping fun. But you're right, Coach Thompson, legendary, and it is nice to see coaches are going to remember him this week with that initiative.
Well, I will say this. Obviously, the one really, really sad thing I think through this whole, stretch with the COVID is, we've lost, in all walks of life, many, many special people. We've lost, a lot of former coaches, and it's been a tough go for everybody. It really has. It has. And I hope everybody's doing well.
So, Coach, in just a moment, I'll open it up for people to just jump on, and we'll stop the recording aspect of it. But I'd like you to have the last word on previewing this big game against UMass Lowell Saturday night or Saturday afternoon, and what that means as we get ready for the postseason.
Yeah, I told our guys today, I said, this is exactly the kind of game that we want to be playing in at the end of February. It's a meaningful game. It's a tournament type of game on Saturday with nobody in the crowd. I think when you get to this time of the year, if you're a good basketball team, you got to go out and you got to do a lot of good things. You've got to be disciplined. You got to play hard. You got to defend. There's no stones unturned at this time of the year. So it's a great opportunity for us. It really is. I would love for these guys to be rewarded with being able to host one of these pods. I think that would be really cool to be at home and have a chance, to play in a pod and a chance to advance in our conference tournament. The ultimate goal is always, we want to try to cut the nets down in March, and it's that time of year. So we got to go get it. It's in our hands. We control it. We got to go play well.
Coach, as always, great to hold court. 45 minutes of Bill Herrion, and we'll again have the post-mortem with people jumping in with more questions. And I hope we keep doing these, well beyond March and April. It's nice to bring everybody back. We had a good 25 to 30 people live and many more who will watch this on YouTube. So thanks for being so gracious with your time and always so candid.
Yeah, no problem. And anybody wants to stick around, be more than happy to. Any questions, it's open. So don't be afraid to ask anything. We'll try to answer it, as honestly as we can.